Okay, it's 6 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. If you have a cell phone, please put it in silent mode.
I'm just saying it's 5 o'clock.
It's 5 o'clock, yes, and it's June 21st. Very good, good catch. The public meeting hearing before the Sawyer County Board of Appeals is hereby called to order at 5 p.m. Sawyer County Courthouse in Hayward. Present on behalf of the board, Al Gerber, Laura Russ, Gordy Christians, Joe Barron, and Jenny Chapek. Those persons desiring to give pertinent testimony will be given the opportunity to do so. As recognized by the chairman, that person will clearly state their full name before giving testimony. Each hearing will follow this order. Reading of the application, submission of the file to the board, applicant's statement and presentation of evidence, testimony of those in support of the application, statements from persons in objection to the application, rebuttal as permitted by the board, and decision by the board. Orderly procedure requires that each side shall proceed without interruption by the other. All testimony will be addressed to the board, and there will be no questions or arguments. Any person aggrieved by a decision of the board may appeal the decision to the circuit court within 30 days of the date following the board's decision letter. The day following the signing of the board's decision letter is the first day of the 30-day filing period. This public hearing has been published as a Class II notice in accordance with Chapter 985 Wisconsin statutes and Sawyer County Record and Sawyer County Gazette on July 8th and July 15th, 2026. The public hearing will follow this order: approval of minutes, various applications, new business, and adjournment. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes of our last meeting? Are there any questions or statements about those minutes? Any deletions or alterations recommended? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Is there a second to that? First by Laura, second by Gordy. All those in favor of the motion as presented, saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 3 variance applications this evening. This is a public hearing in the town of Weirgor. Owner Bradley and Jody Moss, variance number 26-002. This is part of parcel 0307371733203, 1.55 total acres, zone forestry 1. Application is for the after-the-fact placement of a 12.5 by 24-foot shed located 69.5 feet to the center line of State Highway 48. This variance is requested as the Sawyer County Code of Ordinances, Appendix D, Section 4.21, Parent 1, which would require the prior granting of a variance for any structure located closer than 130 feet to the center line of Highway 48. As part of my staff report, an on-site inspection was conducted by myself on April 29th of this year. This on-site inspection was in conjunction with a citation that was previously issued to Mr. Moss. As part of the court proceedings, the judge had asked if there was any other options for Mr. Moss to have the shed kept in its current location. The only mechanism that would allow for a lesser setback to a state highway would require the prior granting of variance. The court citation procedures have been stayed pending the outcome of this variance. At the time of the on-site, additional setbacks and on-site conditions were laid out. There does not appear to be a compliant buildable area on the property that would meet all setbacks, including those from the state highway, rear lot line, sewer systems, easements, and wetland setbacks. The shed could be relocated further back from the highway as to lessen the setback requirements, but it would require additional tree removal, grading, and potentially eliminating other turning radiuses and parking areas. There is good line of sight and little safety concerns with the present shed location. And then keeping in mind for any decisions that the board may make, I do have lists of potential approval conditions as well as the findings of facts that I have in my staff report, as well as the applicant's additional information which they submitted to you. By motion of the town board was approved. Mark Bartlett, chairman, Doug Zubro, supervisor, Cliff Parr, supervisor. No additional comments signed. Michelle Myers, town clerk. 6 additional notification letters sent out to adjacent property owners within 500 feet. 0 additional comments or responses were returned. That is all.
Are the Mosses here or someone to speak on their behalf. Step to the microphone and state your name.
My name is Bradley Moss, and I'm the owner of the property.
Okay. Do you have any additional information to present to us that was not included in your application?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I believe you've gotten everything that I have written.
We did.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I go by that property very often. And at 55 miles an hour, I'm not looking for what trees you're gonna cut down, but
Yeah.
oh, sorry. Did anything I say get recorded? Okay. How many trees and how large, if you did have to move the shed?
Very large trees and probably at least 3, maybe more. It would really, well, I just couldn't do it. It would really degrade my property. They're a big asset to the property, beauty and shade.
The blacktop driveway that kind of curves around yours and goes to the dwelling in the back? Pardon?
It's an next door neighbor.
Yeah, I know that. So is any of that blacktop on your property?
Well, it crosses part of my property there. And in fact, we just had an easement drawn up. But when I first moved there, I asked permission to go down Jackie's driveway, and then I graveled with I have a fifth wheel RV, and then I have another big trailer. And to try and back that in off Highway 48 with all the traffic is dangerous. So I go down her driveway and I can turn in to my property and be facing to leave again when I want to leave again without backing off the highway. And there's so many, so much traffic, so many log trucks. There's a hill not too far to the west, it just asking for an accident, backing something in, and I don't have a lot of room to back in around my garage, and so,
You mentioned that an easement had been drafted. Has it been recorded?
yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Board, did you guys, anybody get a chance to visit the site? It doesn't appear that there's any room going west. It drops off fairly quickly into lowland over there. Any of the board have any questions of Mr. Moss?
Mr. Moss, there is some reference in your document here about an alternative location. Were you given an alternative location for that shed?
Well, where they want it would eliminate me coming in from the back. Then I would have to back off the highway again to get my trailers into the property. That's where originally he wanted it behind my garage by my propane tank, and there isn't room to come in, use it the way I'm using it. I put it in the best location that to utilize the property and be able to come in with, my longer trailers without backing in off Highway 48.
I will say, you also commented about liking to keep your property looking nice. I thought your property looked very nice when I went out and looked at it.
Thank you. My wife and I have put a lot of effort into it
Can
since
tell.
we moved there.
Sir, does the metal shed out by the highway is the one we're talking about? Is there a foundation under that? A floor?
No, it's just
sir?
gravel. And it's just, I have some rebar holding it to the ground, just drove in the ground. I welded some washers on top, and
Another thing is where your trailer is, the biggest one, is that sitting on the driveway itself, or is that off to the side of the driveway that comes from the back?
Oh, when I come in, I barely have enough room, and then I pull up, and then I kind of back it off to the side. But there's gravel there. It's all on gravel.
Yeah, but the trailer is not sitting on the driveway itself. It's off to the side of it a bit. Would it be possible to move the shed where the trailer sits and have the trailer sit where the shed sits?
No, because then I couldn't turn in. It takes every bit of room with nothing there to pull that trailer in. And I just back it up to straighten it out. If there was another trailer there, I couldn't come in that way. I'd have to back in off the highway. And I'm a pretty good backer upper. I drove semi for 35 years.
Joe, did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a couple questions. First, what is the required setback from the state highway? Is it 130 or is it that 85 that is to the house?
So it's 130 feet from the center line of a state highway or 66 feet from the right-of-way, which is ever greater. The center line setback is the greater setback in this case. Yes, the house is also within that, and the house was issued a land use permit prior to my time. I don't know how they issued the house in its current location either, but the house is also within the 130 setback.
That's what I found a little confusing, is that the house wasn't meeting the requirements and the shed wasn't much far off the house. How long ago did you build the shed?
I'm thinking it's been two years, I think. Yeah,
Were you aware of the setback limitations?
no, I wasn't. I tell you, I had just spent 2 months in the hospital, almost died, and my brain was pretty foggy. I actually bought that building used in the hospital, and then when I got well enough, I put it up. Actually, I just got done by fall. But
And it appears that you store, when we visited, the door was open, it looked like lawn equipment and
yes.
things like that
That's my
nature.
ladders. I also bought a little skid steer and fixed it up. That's in there because I'm getting too old to run a shovel.
Right.
And my lawnmower, 2 lawnmowers. Yeah, it's just yard equipment pretty much. And before, I had it, all tried to park it in the back and then cover it with tarps, and that starts looking pretty tacky. Plus, it's a pain in the rear to have to cover everything and strap it down because the wind will blow the tarps off. And so I thought, this is perfect. But never even thought about a building permit.
As I had mentioned previously, I go by this site quite often, and the way the door is facing on the structure we're talking about, even if he parks accessing the structure, he's not parking closer to the road. And in Jay's staff report, he mentioned that there's no line of sight impediment with the location of this. Parking next to that structure probably isn't an option because of that great big tree that's right there. So I sure don't see a problem with line of sight impediment. Okay, any other comments, sir?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
May be
you.
seated. Anyone else to speak on behalf of the application?
My name is Jackie Jordan, and I live on the property behind him. And when he decided to put the shed there, I thought it was the best ideal place that he could do it without taking down those trees that my dad planted. And so I even helped him build it, so. Yeah. So I think it should just stay there because it really makes a big improvement in that thing. And there's really no way he could have put that trailer, even when you talk about putting it in the driveway, there's an incline, a really steep incline, and there's no way that he could have put that trailer in the driveway either. And as he says, to try and back it out on 48 would be a dangerous thing to do. And like I said, he pulls it around in my driveway, and we got that easement, so, between the two of us, so.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak on behalf of the application? Anyone to speak in opposition? Hearing none, discussion by the board. It appears to me that the Mosses did the best they could with what they had to work with. And a desire to have the equipment under cover during the winter months is not an unusual request.
Okay, I get that portion of it, and I guess, am I on or off?
You're on, the red is on.
See that H thing we were talking
Yeah.
about out in the park?
Yeah, it's starting to affect me.
Yeah. Shouldn't have sat next to me. The one point I want to bring up, because everyone expects me to, because I always do, is when we look at these after the facts, we are to look at them as, would we have approved this variance in the first place? And I'm not indicating that that is influencing my decision right now. I just think it needs to be brought up, that we are supposed to be looking at it like it was not there and he is here asking for it. I don't know how long they've lived there, but I did hear you mention, Mr. Moss, that someone had told you, suggested that you put it further back and then you didn't want to. I don't know who you asked or what the timeline was on that, but who did you ask?
This is the zoning office.
Okay.
We, as part of the onsite to look
Oh,
at compliant.
The current on-site,
Yeah.
not before.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
So the citation part of it came from someone?
We had sent several order for correction letters to remove the garage to a compliant location. Mr. Moss didn't at that point. I believe the option of variance was brought up at one point, but they proceeded to, fight the citation. What's the correct word there?
Object?
Yeah, object to the citation. And then, as part of the court proceedings, the judge had asked me, what other options does Mr. Moss have? And I informed Mr. Moss as well as the judge again, another option you have is to get that structure approved under a variance for reduced highway setback. And the judge basically directed me and Mr. Moss to file a variance through this court and see where that would go prior to bringing the citation back in front of him.
So no citation was paid, but an application fee was paid?
A variance application fee was paid, yes. The citation fee amount has not been paid at this point, no. Still pending, correct, because they have filed a not guilty verdict for the citation.
Just a question for the chair. Since this is a state highway, is there any additional jurisdiction that the county needs to look at for granting such a variance?
No, as long as it's located out of the right-of-way, DOT has no other objections as far as setbacks from it, as long as it's physically located out of the right-of-way. This is about 6 feet from the right-of-way.
Okay.
Laura brought up a good point that for variances that are after the fact, that yes, you should be generally looking at them as that this is not here. Would you grant it in that location? And you did hear some evidence from the applicant as to why they would like it in that location, other than just it's there right now. Is there other areas on the property in which it could be given a lesser setback or a greater distance from the highway? The answer is yes, but you had heard from the applicant, turn radius would be an issue, tree removal would be required. If it was to stick behind the house, they're gonna lose a garden and a propane tank in their view and a possible alternative drain field. We do have a rear lot line setback, which is 40 feet from that south property line. We have a new dedicated easement road, which requires a 30-foot setback from center line. The buildable area on this property is slim to none. So just keep that in mind.
Any further discussion? Certainly, you have to step to the microphone.
When I first was told that I had to apply for a building permit, which I did and sent in the payment, and that's when it was discovered it was too close to the center line. And then I did talk to my county commissioner, and he said that he come into zoning. He told me afterwards, and he said, you know, you could apply for a variance, but he says, I just feel like you would be throwing your money away, that they won't grant it to you. So that's why I didn't pursue a variance, and I kept measuring. I even put stakes up, brought my trailer in, run over the stakes because I couldn't get in if the building, and that was putting the building so close to the trees that they may, in the wind, hit the building just from swaying. So I knew that I couldn't move it there and where he wanted it and still access off of 48 through her driveway. So, and then I seen so many others that were too close to the center line also, and then my house was too close. And then after our last court with Jay, I thought, well, I'll try the variance, but I did think about it at first, but I was advised that it probably wouldn't fly, so that's why I didn't spend the $750 the first time.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
I guess I have a degree of sympathy for his situation, but I'm looking at this picture right here, board, and I hate to see him have to move the shed, but it appears to me that if the camper and that other trailer weren't there, that shed could be moved back further away from the state highway. And I'm trying to pick up a little bit of the history here of how it all went down, and I know that would be a real inconvenience for them to have to move the shed. But it looks like there are items parked where a shed could be. I don't know if anyone else sees that or not, but I certainly do.
Yeah, I saw that as well, and I guess I question whether or not it's a hardship to have to put some of those vehicles into a storage unit rather than having them parked in your yard.
Is it permissible to park trailers?
Yeah, trailers are not regulated by the zoning code, as long as
So-
they're located out of the right of way of a town road or a state highway.
So theoretically, you switch them and it's still in the same situation. Nothing changed.
Yeah, it would still require a variance, because you're still not gonna get the 130 back from the center line. To what distance that would be, I mean, that would be something that the board would have to approve.
No, I mean,
to.
what I'm saying is that if you park a trailer where that building now is and move the building where the trailer was, what was gained?
Lose the turning radius.
Yeah.
And my other thought is if we were to grant this variance and in 20 years someone else purchased that property, they could realistically build a structure where that metal shed is because a variance has been granted for that metal shed Is
For
that
the
correct,
same
Jay?
size and footprint, yes,
Right,
but if they want to
yeah.
go bigger, then they'd be back here getting
Be
a
back
variance for
here,
a
but-
bigger structure. Yep.
12 and a half by 24 garage might be very nice, you know, if anyone wanted to make, because the shed is designed, it's not movable easy, but it's different than laying a foundation, like a house or a more permanent garage. So once we grant that variance, a structure of that size could always be built there from now until eternity.
Yes,
Okay.
But that is a structure.
yeah, it's still a structure, I mean, so.
Yeah, that's, whether it looks different or not, still, this one's still a structure.
I do think the further back you go, you talked about, flip-flopping in this photo. When you do move the shed back further, you do get more in line with the house, and that's kind of the important aspect of that turning radius, because, ultimately it kind of swings wide to make this turn. And by moving this back into this location, which you're talking about, I don't think he has that same ability to make that turn. That's kind of what I saw when I was on site. But that was also discussed with the applicant.
All right, any further discussion? Anyone care to make a motion to either approve or deny?
It's all on you.
Yeah. I will make a motion to approve the application as presented. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the application as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Three yeses. All those not in favor of the application, saying aye. Oh, you said four? Oh, there were four in favor of, and one opposed, to let the record reflect. Findings of fact is due to conditions that are unique to the property, and there's no harm to others or change in use. So Jay, now the next step will be for them to visit your office and a permit would be issued?
Correct. And I would also be talking with our corporation counsel who handles citations, who's also your legal counsel, as to the proceedings with the court matter. But ultimately, with the approval now of the variance, we would
Be a motion to
we would dismiss the citation.
dismiss that, okay. Okay, the Mosses, did you catch that you now have to revisit the office, the zoning office, and get a permit issued? Okay, correct. 4-1. All right, thanks for coming.
Moving on, this is our second variance. This is the public hearing in the town of Ojibwa, variance 26-003, owner James and Mary Polkrup. This is as parcel 020-638-045101, which is tax ID 20476. It is 0.93 total acres zoned residential 1. Applications for the placement of a storage shed or an accessory shed 13 feet by 21 feet with eaves on the west edge of a concrete apron in front of an existing garage. The proposed accessory structure to be located 94 feet from the center line of State Highway 27 and 45 feet to the ordinary high water mark of the Chippewa River. This variance is requested as the Sawyer County Code of Ordinances Appendix D, Section 4.21, Parent 1, which would require the prior grant of a variance for any structure located closer than 130 feet to the center line of a highway or 66 feet from the right-of-way line, which is ever greater. The applicant is requesting a 94-foot setback from the center line of the highway. Also, as per the Sawyer County Code of Ordinances, Appendix B, Section 6.1, Parent 1, structures shall have a 75-foot setback from the ordinary high water mark of any navigable water. Applicant is requesting for a reduced water setback of 45 feet. As part of my staff report, an on-site inspection was conducted by the Assistant Zoning Administrator, Casey Mashevich, on May 15th. At that time, an on-site location was chosen so that the proposed shed would not be any closer to the center line of the highway than the existing house and would be in line with the existing concrete slab. When the shed was then staked out, the resulting setback distance to the river was located at 45 feet. The shed could be located further away from the river, but it would result then in a closer setback to the highway. With the proposed shed, the total impervious surfaces of the lot would be approximately 12.4%. There is a cut-in area along the shoreline of the river, which does create the additional close proximity to the ordinary high water mark. I don't know if any of you saw that. There's kind of like a ravine that cuts down where basically the river's kind of been washing away and indenting there. If it wasn't for that indentation, it would be closer to about 65 feet from the river. So just keep that in mind. Keeping in mind any additional conditions or the findings of facts as listed in my staff report, there was, by action by the town board, motion was approved. Greg Haberman, chair. Jeff Pettit, supervisor. Dan Granica, supervisor. No additional comments, signed Jill Pettit, town clerk. There were some notification letters sent out. Yeah, oh, sorry, there was 15 additional notification letters sent out within 500 feet of the subject property. One additional comment was received, which was sent to the Board of Appeals members by a Russ Falkenberg. And then we also got additional correspondence from the Department of Natural Resources, which was also sent to the Board of Appeals members. Did the Board of Appeals members have a chance to read those additional comments that we received?
I read it.
Hearing by all board members, they had a chance to review those additional documentations, therefore be it incorporated into the record. That is all.
Are the Pro Cups here? Would you like to speak on behalf of your request?
He's a little hard of hearing.
Join the crowd.
Oh, what? Is this on?
Yes.
Okay. Question?
Is there anything additional you'd like to tell the board?
It's pretty much self-explanatory what I'm doing there. It's not, I don't have anything additional, no. I was to a town board meeting about that a week or so ago, and there was no problem with the town board.
Okay. Does the board have any questions? I have one, if I may. I was there today, late this afternoon, actually, and there's a thin sidewalk in front of your home between the house and it seems to run farther east towards the village of Winter. And there's an open area next to your home along that sidewalk. What is that sidewalk for, and why are you choosing to build out on that slab rather than east of your house?
I have no idea why that sidewalk was extended.
It looks old.
That was there before we purchased the property in 2006.
Okay.
And everything to the east of the house has to do with the septic system. There's a drain field there.
All right.
Between the house and the garage, there is a well. To the east of the house is the septic and drain field.
Is it near the septic and drain field? Is it as indicated on the map? or close to it?
I would assume it was close to it. This is Casey Mashevich writing up this on-site inspection report. I didn't check the validity, but I mean, he knows what septic tanks and drain fields look like. so.
In that photo there, it says Town of Ojibwa, the letters, and there's a rectangle there.
Yep.
That's where the drain field is?
The size of the structure you're proposing, would it not fit in between the house and the drain field? Or would that screw up the setback from the drain field?
Well, east of the house, again, the drain field setback to a shed, even though if it's a portable temporary movable shed, it would still be a 10-foot setback from the drain field. I, again, didn't look at that area. This was an onsite that was done by Casey, and this is ultimately what the applicant wanted to proceed with for the variance. If you give me a little bit of time, I might be able to grab the sewer system layout and see if there was any potential room in there. You'd still be looking at a variance. You'd still not be able to meet the river and the lake. These are overlapping in setbacks, but you might be a little bit further away from, I said lake, but
Water.
from the river. Yeah.
And that was my only consideration for flipping what side of the house to put it on was because you would be farther from the water on the east side of the house than you would be from the west side of the house.
Okay, I believe that, only because on the west side of the house, there is a natural indentation in the ground there, which moves the high water mark closer.
No, right. Yep. Have you designed any plans for this storage facility as far as roof pitch and water retainment?
I was just looking at a pre-manufactured shed to be moved in there.
Oh,
Built
okay.
here in Hayward.
Oh, okay. So, will it sit on a foundation?
No, there was no foundation there. There was just, it's just a grassy area.
Okay, but the unit you're moving in would not have
No, there would be no foundation, no.
okay,
I might put some gravel down, some stone for leveling.
level, yeah, sure, for sure, okay.
No foundation, no. Strictly a portable set it down.
All right. Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board?
I have one for Jay. We've been getting a lot of requests for storage containers in cases like this. Is there a difference for a storage container put on a place like this from a pre-built structure?
No, they are both at this point, yes, but they're both viewed as accessory structures. Commonly as, sheds, storage buildings, they're all viewed as accessory structures. You need to have a house first, and then you could potentially have an accessory structure as an additional storage area. The only difference is that the nature of shipping containers was a little bit contentious to the towns. So all shipping container requests require town board approval. And then each individual town can choose whether or not they want shipping containers in their towns or not. Certain towns have been going through policy decisions in which they either require greater setbacks or require annual inspections to make sure that they're rust-free. Others have basically not allowed them with just in a residential zone district. So we kind of left the nature of shipping containers up to the towns.
The setbacks to be the same?
Yeah, setbacks and everything else, use, all of that would remain the same. The one other different caveat is that you're only allowed one shipping container on a lot that is zoned anything other than commercial or industrial.
Okay. No other questions?
Cosmetically, this shed that I'm gonna put in there looks it would resemble the garage, and it would resemble the house as far as coloring of the siding. And the shed's gonna have the same metal roof on it, same color. Storage shed would be an eyesore there.
Jenny, you had a question?
Yeah, I did. So I thought the same thing that you did about the location on the other side of the house being a better spot for this. but also noted, the existing house and garage, they are within the setback of the river. And the road. Is that correct?
Yes.
So if it was possible to put it on that other side of the house, I would be much more positive about it, but also it may need to be a little smaller to fit in with the existing septic system setback. It would be good to know that.
Yeah,
I know
and
that's what you're looking at.
Yeah, that again, that area wasn't fully looked at. This house and garage in general is a pre-existing non-conforming structure. Both of those structures were there pre-zoning. I do have the sanitary permit application pulled up and is on the screen now, which again, does resemble as to Casey Mashevich's inspection report, where if you were to put a shed in this location, it would still be really tight. It would probably be encroaching upon the drain field setback. Once we get on this side of the drain field, this topography does start running down pretty quickly. And it would still require some type of variance. It would require probably a dual variance again. Without the indentation though, maybe we get an extra 10 feet away from the river, right? Maybe it's now 55 or 65 from the river. Other things I guess you could look at too is if there was concerns with it being that close to the river, you could say, well, we want it 65 feet back from the river, wherever it is on the property, and we'll grant a 75-foot setback from the center line. Because right now it's 45 and 95, I believe, right? Or 97? No, 94. So right now it's 45 river, 94 center line.
But the proposed location on the other side of the garage is there isn't much room there before it drops off into a little gully. And it seems like it would be more detrimental to you can see it there, more detrimental to the runoff situation to the river than on the other side.
That's a steep drop off.
It is.
I walked over to see, I don't even see where the river is, and my foot was over the edge, like, oh, I'm not going up back any further there. It's really a significant drop right there.
Well, those were all pre-existing conditions.
Oh, I understand that. I was just commenting on, it's a
Garage
drop.
was built there already and everything was there.
Which way?
Go ahead.
If I go along the east side of the house with a shed, I'm gonna be blocking my view out of my house windows. On the west side of the property, it's as far away from the house as the garage, actually a little bit further. So it wouldn't be blocking my house windows.
Correct. Which way will your entry to the proposed shed? Is it face the highway or face east?
Would be facing south towards the highway. I'll have a service store facing east.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you. Any additional comments you'd care to make?
Like I say, anything on the east side of the house is gonna be so close that I can't look out the windows.
Okay, good point. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else to speak on behalf of the application? Hearing none. Anyone to speak in opposition to the application? Hearing none. Discussion by the board.
Yeah, I would like to say that I'm going to support this. I don't think it's our job to try to find a new design for a person that wants to do something with their property. I was out there a week ago when it was 110 degrees and the applicant was out working in his garage and I wanted to sit in my air-conditioned car. I believe we should allow him to have his shed near his garage. There's currently a bunch of logs. He stores his firewood there and he told me he was going to remove that and put the shed there. I don't see the issue to the river being that significant. This gentleman is doing the steps in the proper way. He's coming to us ahead of his request. This is not an after the fact, but he's taking all the right steps. I've seen letters of support from neighbors, so when the time is right, I'd be happy to make a motion to support it.
Okay. Thank you. And I don't know that we were trying to redesign his request, but looking at alternatives is always a good option. Any other comments?
And I'll just make one more, just so the board has some realization. I mean, the current garage structure, again, existing non-conforming, pre-zoning, pre-setbacks, is currently about 35 feet from the river. This proposed shed, again, because of the indentation, would be approximately 45, but it is further away than the existing garage structure currently is. And again, there is still some potential that if you felt that 45 was too close, you could look at implementation of additional, catch basins off of that one side, or say, we really want you to get, 55 feet from that river, and we're gonna, reduce the road setback that same amount, so grant an 84-foot setback from center line and a 55-foot setback from ordinary high water mark, and those are things the board can do, so.
Are catch basins difficult to design and maintain?
A true catch basin, yeah, I don't know what else you'd be able to do here. You'd almost have to do, because it snaps off so quickly there, right? That, I don't know if it's worth even guttering that side. I mean, there is quite a bit of natural vegetation. I mean, no one's, mowing or maintaining that. So water is still slowing down before it gets into the river there. And you're not really adding a giant amount of impervious surface. As a true catch basin, you would try to, trench something or, have a shallower depression and fill it kind of with like trap rock so that it slows and dissipates that water movement. So it's not just coming right off the shed roof and right down to the hill. It's getting absorbed in some type of, depression area catch basin. Are they hard to design? No, but this one's a little bit difficult. As I was looking at the contour elevations here, it snaps off pretty quickly. If he's lining it right up with that corner, that corner is gonna be the last good ground. I guess you could, if it comes up here and it's even with the slab, you could potentially get something right off that side as kind of more of a shallow depression, call it a natural rain garden area before it starts falling down that hill quickly. I'm sure we could get something designed in there, yes.
But water's gonna be running both ways off of that roof, correct?
Yeah,
It's a-
I mean, I'd be more worried about the velocity coming off of the stuff that's going to the west as opposed to the stuff to the east. I would assume, I don't know where the water off the driveway goes now, but that's gotta go somewhere too. Why doesn't it just go back to the highway? Does it kind of filter throughout the lawn? It looks like it would come off of the highway down towards his property, so even the stuff coming off the highway is coming down to the river there.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, does anyone care to make a motion to either approve or deny the request?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the request
Okay,
as written.
is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Second by Gordy, motion by Joe, second by Gordy. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for, Jenny?
Yeah, I'm still thinking that there could be a better spot on the property for that. Where it is or where it's proposed to be, not only do you have the water coming off towards the gully that goes to the river, but it could potentially go right into the garage off of that cement slab. I'd like to see the applicant take a little bit more time and look at other options.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote, a call for a vote on the motion as presented. All those in favor of the motion say we're saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Let the record reflect that the motion was approved by a vote of 4-1.
I need some findings of facts, please. From the motion maker.
What was that again?
I need findings of facts. They are included in the staff report.
Yeah, page 2.
Those. We got one of that last time too. That's why I'm making motions.
Now, your motion did not contain any conditions, but generally, when we have these types of motions, they need to be supported by potential approval reasons, specifically as they go to the three-step test, right? This is a little bit of an easier one. I don't think, anyone's going to appeal the shed that you just approved. But when it gets down to very specific variance cases, we really should be going through the three-step test, making sure that the applicant has met all elements. And this is a good training mechanism for ones that become way more difficult than the one you just heard, so.
So I would say number 3, a minimal relaxation of the code is being granted.
Joe, I think you need to put on your.
Oh, I'm so sorry. A minimal relaxation of the code is being granted.
Not a self-created hardship.
Yeah, correct. I don't see other alternatives that exist. I think that's the best alternative, certainly for his shed. And I think the construction matches the lot, and he's going to make it match his building, so, in a available area.
Is it too late to put a condition into this?
It would have to, and this is more of a question for legal counsel, I believe you would have to have the motion maker re-add that, amend.
Make an amendment to the motion?
Because you have a motion and a second, and you already have a vote.
Okay.
So it is in the same hearing, you can do a reconsideration of the motion. In order to reconsider the motion, you need a majority of the voting members to make approval of reconsideration, and then I believe you could end up having an amendment to that motion you made.
Well, the runoff issue potentially is a concern, and after, too late, but I wondered if not allowing any further clearing of the property west of the new structure, west or north of the new structure, to keep that runoff area heavily vegetated, if that would have been a consideration. But right now, I can't think of any reason anybody's going to go cut that brush. There's just no reason. So I don't know that we have to back up and re-vote on this. So,
Yeah, from a conservation standpoint, if someone was to cut that brush on that side of the garage because they wanted to see the river more or open that area up, all they're gonna do is become more susceptible to erosion and eventually lose that garage.
yeah.
So,
Okay, thank you, folks. Your request has been approved, and you can stop by the office and pick up a permit.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending.
Greg, the permit is, when would we pick that up?
Whenever the office is open and you can get there.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
this is a public hearing in the town of Hayward, variance 26-004, Grand Pines Condo South. This is unit 1. This is as tax ID 10190. This is 0.9 total acres, zone residential recreational 1. Application is for the reduced water setback for a 180 square foot patio located 24 feet from the ordinary high water mark of Little Round Lake. Variances requested as the Sawyer County Code of Ordinances, Appendix B, Section 6.1, Parent 1, which requires a variance for any structure placed closer than 75 feet from the shoreline of a navigable water and does not fall under other exemptions as of 6.2 or 6.3. As by my staff report, an on-site inspection was conducted by myself and Maya Weemis from the zoning department on May 4th in response to observed violations on this property. At the time of the on-site, it was observed that a new fire pit patio area was constructed at a distance of 24 feet to the ordinary high water mark. In conversations with the applicant, they were unaware that a permit was required for this type of structure and that adding the patio area in this location has reduced erosion and runoff issues that were occurring on the lot. All other setbacks are met, including impervious surface totals of the entire condo being at 9.63%. The open-sided structure exemption is not eligible for this unit because the primary dwelling is already located within the shoreline setback, which is that distance of 75 feet. Keeping in mind for any types of motions that the board would ultimately make, look through your aspects for approval reasons for each 3 steps or the denial reasons for each 3 steps. And then on the other conditions that the board may want to add for either approval or denial as part of the elements as listed in my staff report. By action of the town board, motion was recommended for denial. Don Hamlin supervisor, Travis Butterfield supervisor, Stacy Hessel supervisor. The denial reasons is that unnecessary hardship is not present. The landowner has reasonable use already. That's number 1. Number 2, cumulative impacts can be foreseen. Number 3, a self-imposed hardship cannot be grounds for approval. The hardship is not due to unique physical limitations of the property and appears to be unique of the applicant as follows. Number 1, there are many other similar lots in the area. Number 4, again, this is looking at the staff report, but number 4 is that this is a self-imposed hardship. The variance will harm the public interest or neighboring land uses and damage the intent of the zoning code because an approval would set a precedent. While a single variance may have limited impacts, repeated reductions in shoreline setbacks can lead to cumulative effects on water quality, habitat, and scenic beauty. Signed, Bryn Hand, Town Clerk. There were 11 additional notification letters sent out to adjacent property owners within 500 feet. No additional comments were received. The board was sent a response from the Department of Natural Resources. Again, for those that may not remember or don't know, the DNR responses are specifically sent to the DNR when we look at reduced ordinary high water mark setbacks. This board has continuously stated in the past that you wanted additional feedback from the Department of Natural Resources when dealing with those types of variance requests, and that was sent to you. Did the board have a chance to review the additional documentation sent by the Department of Natural Resources, Warren, particularly Kristen Rankin?
Yes.
Yes.
Board has acknowledged they received that information, therefore being incorporated into the record. That is all.
Okay, thank you. Is Mike Barnes here or someone to speak on his behalf? Good evening.
Hello, Mike Barnes. So I'm assuming that you all have the photos of how it was when we purchased, my wife and I purchased the cabin. And there was clearly an issue beforehand with dirt and water running right down. So that fire pit ring was there when we purchased it or whatever. And when we had gotten there, on either side of the steps going down to the dock, dirt and gravel and mud was running down into the lake. So I talked with the local landscaper or whatever when we came out and had built the steps up and changed and diverted the water and put in the flagstone around there because it's a high traffic area from sitting, by fire or whatever. So you beat it down to dirt and eventually with rains and stuff like that, you get runoff. So figuring this would be a much cleaner is what I was thinking, was just clean water. And we changed the pitch of the water to go back into the wall and down into my part of the property to my neighbors, which we are all one common shared, how do I say it, property. I think we have 5 acres there or whatever. So we diverted the water from running down to the lake, how it was before. And I know that I'm allowed 5 feet, I believe, for walkways. I am under the 5 feet for a walkway and was hoping by getting this variance that would equate to my 180 square feet that I have there versus me going out to the 5 feet. I have like 3-foot walkways through that whole piece there. So I was wondering if I could allocate that to the patio area, I guess is where I'm at with it. But I feel like in the photos, it was pretty self-explanatory, how we made it better. Yeah, as you can see, in those photos there, that's how it was when we purchased the place. And it was, running right down into the lake. And then afterwards, you can see it was changed and the water falls off to the right of that photo and then some goes back into that little boulders there behind those chairs. I guess that's what I have to say about it. I just feel we've made things way better. Oh, the other thing is I don't have an option, I guess, to move it anywhere else per se. Because I don't know if you've all had been out there, but that's the garage and then right next to it is the cabin. And then it's County Road B. So for me to get back to where I would almost have to have the fire pit almost to County Road B. It's a very tiny lot.
How much material did you bring in to raise what I will call the yard?
So they brought in sand, but really they didn't raise it, they took it down. So if you look right there in that photo, see how there's boulders behind those chairs there?
Yep.
So they dropped the yard down back there. So that changed the water pitch, because if you go to the photo just above that there, the water was literally running, right, just straight all the way down. So if you look on the other side of that fire ring, he dropped the grade down. So it changed the trajectory of where the water was going to keep it going away from the lake. I mean, it literally was running right down because people sat around the fire and it was dirt. So the rain would just come right down and it would take all the dirt right down. So he sunk the rear end part of it down, if that makes sense.
Well, in the before picture, there's a blue door,
Yep,
and in the after picture, looks like a,
black door.
patio door.
It's just the door's open.
And those are at the same level?
Yep,
They have
that's
to be, 'cause
all the same. We just
You didn't
painted the
change
door.
grade. Yeah, okay. And in the before picture, it appears as though there's 2 steps down to the dock,
Yep,
and in the after, there's more than 2.
yep. So he brought the stairwell up so that the walkway wasn't going down, straight down. So again, so water wouldn't get such a rush down towards the lake.
Okay. And I'm not trying to be conflictive here, but how did adding flagstone around the fire pit stop erosion?
But how did it stop erosion?
Yeah.
Well, we changed the pitch.
Well, yeah, okay, and I completely understand that.
Yep.
But the erosion could have been stopped without flagstone.
Okay,
You know, if you're not slanting towards the lake anymore, it's not going to erode towards the lake.
okay.
So
And
the
what,
flagstone served what purpose? It didn't, the water's gonna run, if you change the slope back to the cabin,
yep,
whether it's dirt or whether it's flagstone, the water is gonna follow that pitch backwards.
well, I put the flagstone down clearly because of high traffic area or what, you know, you're gonna be sitting around and walking around and just creating dirt and mud around the fire pit, you know? Again, we didn't use the full 5 feet that we are allowed, so that's why I was just wondering, you know, to have that same square footage, am I allowed to be able to utilize that same square footage for around the fire pit?
I don't know the answer to that, but maybe the office does.
Yeah, ultimately, no. I mean, I guess, a concession that he's making. It's a condition you could tie on to it that the walkway not ever exceed the width that it currently is. But, I mean, there's no concession that I can make with something like that.
But the issue is the proximity to the water. That's our,
The issue is that flagstone, patio, block, brick, pavers are considered structures.
right.
And this is now a structure that is within the required ordinary high watermark setback. So again, the variance is requested for reduced ordinary high watermark setback. There are exempt structures within the shoreline zoning ordinance within the state statutes. One of them being a 5-foot wide walkway that allows safe pedestrian access to the water. He had indicated a 3-foot wide walkway that is, you know, allowing him that safe pedestrian access. There is one other exemption, it's called the open-sided structure exemption, was ultimately commonly referred to as the guard gazebo rule. And that's stated when all other structures, less walkways and boathouses, meet the required shoreline setback, you are eligible for a 200 square foot open-sided structure that's at least 35 feet from the water, but can be inside of 75 feet from the water. Again, because his existing dwelling is located within the shoreline setback, he is not eligible for that 200 square foot open-sided structure provision. That's what 6.2 and 6.3. So again, this is a request as reduced water setback of 6.1, which doesn't fall under any other exemptions within the code.
What is the solution to this if this were to be denied? And a question for you is, did the landscaper, the person you hired, ever suggest to you that you would need a permit for this design?
No, from what I found out just by all of this, landscapers and pavers don't ever, or paving companies don't ever tell you anything that you need beforehand. 'Cause
Okay.
they're done and paid, and then
Yeah.
I'm left holding the bag for.
So Jay, the question to you then is, how is this situation rectified if we're to be denied?
Removal?
That's what I thought.
Does pea gravel or washed rock?
So single grain substrate, we do not classify as a structure. However, we do classify it as a fill material, and you would not be able to do additional filling within 35 feet from the ordinary high water mark
Without a variance.
without a variance. Correct. I believe that would be something the board would have powers to do, is that you could, you know, require removal of the
Flagstone.
flagstone, but allow replacement of pea gravel or crushed rock or a single grain substrate, which would be then really viewed as fill within the buffer zone within 35 feet. Because ultimately, if that's removed, what's going to be there? I mean, he's ultimately gonna have to reestablish that, so we're gonna, you know, require that it's, you know, reseeded and vegetated unless you allow pea gravel. And then he would potentially have to move, excuse me, potentially have to move somehow 8 feet further back to allow for the pea gravel or fill if you didn't grant the variance, because right now we're at 27 feet. I'm sorry, 24 feet, so we're 11 feet further back from the start of it.
It appears to me as well, Jay, that there was some And I think Al was going there earlier as well, a change in the elevation with the steps down to the dock and then the rocks that are behind the new fire pit. Would the rocks that are behind the new fire pit and behind the flagstone have to be removed as well?
No, I mean, those rocks are probably right at that 35. Again, the front of this patio was at the 24. I mean, should have the landscaper at least even got a shoreline, we call it a shoreline alteration project, where we do allow for, unique situations where they have erosion issues or undulation and, work with our conservation department to allow, some fill in that area through specialized projects. But the goal is then to further restore that area as natural vegetation, not just lawn area. This one's a little bit unique because, again, you're looking at the same before and after photos that I have. The before photos don't look great. It certainly looks like that water coming off the roof. That was more of a mix of gravel and sand and very limited grass and vegetation that was growing that is washing out on either sides of that dock and that existing steps. And now that they were able to kind of reseed and establish that, even though it's just with, manicured lawn area, it certainly appears that it's doing a lot better job of controlling erosion and runoff. And pitching it so that it is getting down in that other depression area. I don't know if you saw the depression area between the two cabins there. It's kind of just a little wooded area, but there is a little bit of a holding area before any of that water could actually escape and get into the lake. I have a photo. That area I'm talking about is specifically like down in here, if that makes sense. This is the corner of the garage. That shallower depression area is down here.
Any additional comments?
I guess I'm just, what is the problem with the flagstone?
It created a larger impervious surface within 24 feet of the ordinary high water mark of the lake.
Okay, but I'm just, so it's impervious, but it's not going to the lake. I'm just trying to understand, not trying to whatever, but if I fix the problem that was clearly there, and it's literally causing no issues at all whatsoever. In fact, the last rain that we just had, if you go just to the left of my cabin or whatever, because then that kind of gets a little steep there or whatever, and you can see where water comes down through the grass or whatever, and then down onto the sand. And I just avoided all of that by putting that in. But I get it, you have rules, and stuff, but I had no idea. Nobody literally told me anything, and I think there's a reason that they do is because they get paid, and stuff. But I was also told, and I don't know if this is true, that if those pieces were broken up into 2 foot by 2 foot pieces of flagstone, is that not true?
I've never heard that. Ultimately, it's what is the defining nature of a structure? So we look at the definition of a structure, and a structure is something that has shape, utility, form, and function.
Okay,
And that acting as flagstone as to create a patio meets the definition of what is considered a structure. Structure needs to meet specific setbacks.
okay. So but I'm saying like if you had 2 foot by 2 foot, now you had pea gravel or something that drains in between each one at 2-3 inches a piece throughout a whole thing, is that creating the same pervious ground now? If that's the ultimate goal?
I'm sure it is, but I've never told anyone a 2 foot by 2 foot
I just heard that
area.
from 2 different landscapers, and I know that they had now told me that maybe the board had talked about setting up some type of committee because they were getting confused by the rules changing on certain things. I don't know, has the flagstone always been this way? Because we did this 4 years ago, I think, is when we had installed it, or had it installed. And had anything changed at that point? Because I am really kind of wondering why I wasn't told. Because I spent a lot of money to do it, and to now have to tear it out is not going to be cheap either.
Yeah, bitter pill.
And that just more of a question, on my side, so.
Yeah, that has never been something that I have stated, nor predecessors have stated, that a 2 foot by 2 foot
Okay, so that's,
paver isn't considered a structure.
Okay.
So maybe other counties regulate things differently, and that's where some of the landscapers are picking it up from, but
okay. I'm just curious. I was doing just research on all of this to see where I stood.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anyone else to speak on behalf of the request? Hearing none. Anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Hearing none. Discussion by the board and decision by the board.
You know, in all these variances that we've had, at least that I've been a part of, usually from the town board, it's always a letter of support or a vote of support, and in this case, it's not, with their concern about creating a condition for future variance requests and so forth. So I guess that is a bit concerning to me. It's sad because it's a beautiful, beautiful structure that he made there. It really looks nice, and it really fits between a house and a garage that appeared to be built before there were rules, because they are so close to the water as well. And I can see where people don't understand that a fire pit area is also a structure, because I think when we think of a structure, we think of a house or a garage. So it could end up being a very unfortunate mistake, and I don't know what direction I'm going here. I'm just kind of rambling on about what's going through my head right now.
It seems like this setback is not, it's not minor, right? It's 24 feet as opposed to 75 feet. It's 2/3 too close. If it was a couple of feet, it might be different, but that's a big difference.
Yeah, and I thought of the same thing, but like Mr. Barnes did say, if he would go with the proposed setback, I think the fire pit would ultimately be in his driveway. There's very, very little property there. But you make a really good point.
Be an awful hard one to support unnecessary hardship in this case.
And the fire pit was there beforehand, so that can say it's the flake somewhere on the fire pit.
Right.
I'll just kind of state on record too that Mr. Barnes is not unique in this situation. I don't know if I've told any of you, but we've had new aerial flights done from 2020 to 2025, and we are finding a lot of these violations. Some have removed, some are pushing back on removal and may be also requesting variances. Others may be going to citation route through court matters. But this isn't a one-off situation. I mean, they're out there and we are enforcing those.
I have a question, Jay, which isn't necessarily relevant to this situation, but when do these landscapers and contractors start getting held their feet to the fire for this
It's a
stuff?
conversation I want to have with our corporation counsel as well, and I've been told that I can give both of them, but a lot of times property owners are not necessarily willing to give up the contractors' names. But it is something where there's misconceptions out there. You know, we've looked at doing, zoning facts in the Sawyer County Record, so more people are educated on this process. I mean, I have some very reputable landscapers come and talk to me about certain projects, and I feel like they're understanding what the zoning ordinances are requiring. And others, for whatever reason, think they know better, and now we are having to remove patios that are placed in non-compliant locations for lots of money for not, so.
And the process for finding these, Jay, happens how?
As of 2 years ago, I would have said the majority of our enforcement comes from complaints of other individuals. As of the last year, the step up of enforcement has been directly influenced by aerial comparisons. A 2020 snapshot as opposed to a 2025 snapshot, and seeing the differences. And I'm sure there's more from 2025 to present day, so.
Just to reiterate, if the flagstone is removed and pea gravel or something like that is put in, is this then going to be allowed?
I would say that by placing of pea gravel in that location would be considered a fill material within the buffer zone. Now, if you as the Board of Appeals allows the applicant to fill that area in with pea gravel, it would be approved to that type of variance. And I can get the actual nomenclature of the ordinance that would not allow filling, grading, excavating within the buffer zone. And that would be
Okay.
something that I believe that the board has the power to make that decision.
But then I also assume that the town board knew that too.
No?
No?
That I don't know. I wasn't in attendance at the town board meeting.
And to add on to her question then, and I asked this earlier, but I just want to confirm it, the rock behind the fire pit that looks like it's almost a retaining wall type of rock would be able to remain?
Yeah, a single layer of boulders that's at least 35 feet from the water would be allowed. Again, we would consider single layer of rock as, again, a fill material. When you fully start stacking them and creating a rock wall or actually putting a true retaining wall down, those are again considered structures and they have to be beyond 75 feet. I do believe that this rock wall was right at or very near to the 35-foot setback. So I'm not requiring removal of the rock wall at this point. Or the single layer of rock.
Should it be decided that the patio around the fire pit be removed, the wooden stairs and the sidewalks can remain?
Yeah, those are exempt structures.
Okay.
Those are allowed.
And that sidewalk could be expanded right up to the door?
So the true ordinance requirements is you're allowed an exempt 60-inch walkway when it is necessary to provide safe pedestrian access. Necessary to provide safe pedestrian access is very vague, where your definition of safe for you to get down might be different than my definition for safe. So generally, we would allow any property some type of 5-foot wide walkway to get down their dock or pier. And that would be one 5-foot wide walkway. So however they want to design that one 5-foot wide walkway would be allowed. Now, again, though, we would only allow one. You couldn't fork and branch them off and curve and twist and bend. But if that walkway went all the way up to the main house door, or you wanted it to go up to the garage door, either one of those would be acceptable.
Go right adjacent to the fire pit.
Okay, all right. Any further discussion by the board? Anyone care to make a motion either in favor or in opposition?
I have one,
Okay,
okay, so the variance for the fill material could come from this committee, or they would have to go back to the zoning, your zoning and apply for another variance?
Well, the town didn't, I think you can, we've made modifications to this committee before that they haven't asked for. But I think the problem is that I don't know that I've ever seen a variance for fill within 35 feet of the ordinary high water mark in any circumstance. Sometimes between 35 and 75,
Right,
never within 35.
okay.
Since you've been here?
Yeah, I've never seen a variance for fill within 35 or fill within the buffer zone. But I mean, you could list it as a condition of denial reasons is that we are denying based upon findings of facts, of unnecessary hardship, contrary to public interest, et cetera, and have a condition of denial be removal of flagstone and allowance of
Replacement.
pea gravel. Just a,
And I think that sets a legal thing, I think that sets as much precedence as the flagstone.
Yeah.
Because now you got to fill within 35 feet of the water.
Because we're within the 35.
Yeah.
So then, what you're suggesting then, Mr. Duffy, is that it should be removal of everything and replaced with grass or some type of vegetation.
With something compliant. and I
Right,
guess-
right, yeah, compliant,
and
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
saying- yeah.
Yeah, I'm just, I hear what you're saying, yeah, for sure.
Because some people, and this is a different county I was working with, some people use artificial turf around, like, something like this. And I don't know if you'd consider that a structure or not.
probably not.
So, I mean, that's the only thing I've seen, you remove the flagstone and you place artificial turf, which looks like grass, but wears better than grass. And that's the only thing I've ever.
Are they fire
Probably use
retardant
pea gravel
though?
below it too.
But yeah, it'd have to be, but I think they are anyway.
Okay.
Even with the pea gravel, though, you'd have to have it structured in there somehow. You'd have to have
Wood, whatever.
wood around
But
it to
even if you had
contain
that, I
it.
mean, God, you're gonna be throwing that stuff against your house with a lawnmower.
Oh, absolutely.
But I still think 35 feet would be an issue.
Anyone care to make a motion to either approve or, well, any further discussion? Anyone care to make a motion to either approve or deny? Sure, yeah, step to the microphone.
So I understand that you're kind of contemplating about the gravel and being within the 35 feet and that being considered fill. But what you're telling me is that I take that flagstone out and I take the sand out and then I bring black dirt in or dirt in, that's also fill, correct? So is that not also against the rules?
Yeah, but we would have to look at some type of restoration. So whether or not we said that we have to, require again a shoreline alteration permit, because I'm not gonna allow just loose earth material there. You're gonna have to get some type of vegetation reestablished, or if the board grants
So I think if you had a plan.
additional
that
fill.
the zoning department would approve of, it was black dirt and planting grass, that's your restoration, so it's not necessarily fill, it's restoring to what it was.
Well, if I
Yeah.
planted grass seed, you're saying down?
Yeah, you might, if there's.
but then, I mean-
sand, you might have put a little black dirt in.
But then we also know stepping on grass seed, it's not gonna grow when you're walking around it, right, for fire and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah,
so I feel like then I'm gonna be right back to the same thing where I have dirt or whatever, water and mud and dirt. I'm just trying to think of the best option, or that's common sense, that what's gonna make the most sense here, that I don't end up sitting in mud hole there or whatever if we wanna have a
like I
fire.
told everybody else, the only thing I've seen is people used artificial turf.
And I'm not I would be all for that because it would just be instant and done, I guess, if that's something I could put down.
Well, it's not a structure because it's fabric,
Right.
Or sod.
or sod, but I mean, I think the artificial turf, you walk on it, doesn't get
Right,
destroyed because it's
right.
artificial turf.
Yep. Because I think that's what happened before there, is it just got beat down,
Yep.
just because you're always walking around it and sitting around it, so. I guess that's all I have, but if that's an option, I would love to explore that if I could, so.
So then within the 35 feet, in the previous picture, before he did anything, that one right there, is that fire pit itself non-compliant,
It's pre-existing.
pre-existing?
Yep.
That fire pit has been there for a while, and generally we'd allow, a rock ring. It's the additional flagstone patio brick block around it that creates the issue. Now, if someone was to ask me, how close to the water can I have a fire pit ring? I would generally tell them 35. This one, again, is pre-existing. We had photos, and for those board members that have been here before, this is actually the second variance on this property. A previous owner had, maybe it's the third, because there was a previous owner that had requested a small bump out of the cabin. I do remember the fire pit being there at that time already. And then Mr. Duffy was just informing me that there was another fence variance that was.
the Great Wall of
That one I wasn't
Yeah.
involved in.
That was the
so,
Great
okay.
Wall of China, but,
I remember that too.
So then, his existing fire pit, we're just gonna assume is in a very similar location to that one, and that one can stay.
I think it's the exact same one. I don't think they,
Oh, it is the same one, okay, got it, all right, thank you.
yeah, if you look at the before and after, I mean, it's in the exact same spot, it's the exact same ring.
I think the town was pretty succinct in their reasons for denial. Would it be an imposition to just shoot those out again real quick?
The town had recommended denial due to unnecessary hardship not present. Number one, the landowner has reasonable use already. Number two, cumulative impacts can be foreseen. Number three, a self-imposed hardship cannot be grounds for approval. They further go on to state that the hardship is not due to unique physical features or limitations of the property and appears to be unique to the applicant as follows. One, there are many other similar lots in the area. Four, this is a self-imposed hardship. And then further go on to state that the variance will harm the public interest or neighboring land use and damage the intent of the zoning code because an approval would set a precedent. While a single variance may be limited impact, repeated reductions in shoreline setbacks can lead to cumulative effects on water quality, habitat, and scenic value.
Yeah, what they said. So I don't know that the last portion of it is necessarily necessary in this, but the very first ones of there is, you cannot justify unnecessary hardship in this case.
is this in the form of a motion?
I was gonna just be
Well,
quiet after
someone,
that.
someone needs to make a motion to either approve or deny, and we can discuss these points further if you're not making that motion.
Okay, I will make a motion to deny the application as presented.
Okay, there's a second to that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion as presented to deny, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Let the record reflect that the motion to deny was approved by a vote of 5-0. Findings of fact?
I got him. Do you want me to? Go ahead. Okay. So this is just what Jay said. Denial reasons.
And I believe that's all we have to say.
Yes,
Right.
and I'll just make one little quick mention. You should have discussion on the findings of facts when the motion is made before calling for the vote.
Oh, I thought it was just the other way around.
Generally not. We always kind of forget we add them at the end, but
Yeah,
Because
bad legal advice.
No, I've said that before. And it's because if you're voting, you want to know
What you're voting on.
what the proposed findings are for the
Right.
vote.
because if you're a judge looking at it, the judge is basically asking you, the board, how did you get to your decision that you made? What grounds do you use to get to your decision? And that's where you're supposed to bring out your findings of facts as you're making your motion for either a denial or an approval.
So it would have worked if I would have said, when I made the motion, the findings of fact are the very things that I just asked Jay to read to us from the
Yeah.
towns, and then it would have been covered.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, well, good. We'll be smarter next time.
Okay,
All right.
So we're letting the record, I would, just so we have a clean copy of it, would you be proposed to amending your motion to include the findings of facts as stated by the town town board. And then Ginny, would you be so willing then to second that motion?
Okay, I would like to amend my original motion for denial to include the findings of fact presented by the town of Hayward to the board.
And I will amend my second to include the findings of fact by the town of Hayward.
Do I have to vote on that again?
Yes.
Okay. Motion's been amended as recorded in the record. All those in favor of the new motion as presented, the amended motion as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion, or any denial? No? Let the record reflect that the motion passed. The motion to deny passed. The amended motion to deny passed by a vote of 5-0. Perfect. Thank you.
So with denial of the variance, the Stark County Zoning and Conservation Department is going to follow up with an order for correction, and it would subject for removal of the fire pit patio area. At this point, they weren't inclined to accept any type of fill material within 35 feet. We can look at the potentials of artificial turf or revegetation of that area, but the fill would be minor to the extent of restoration purposes and not as a pea gravel area, at least within 35. If there's an area beyond 35 where you can relocate that to, great, we can work with you on that. But ultimately, we'll be in contact with you via letter as an order for correction deadline for removal.
Okay, but how do if I can do turf, I just wanna know, if I'm tearing it out, then I wanna know can I put that turf down like you were suggesting then?
I would have you, give me a call tomorrow or sometime next week. We'll probably end up getting a letter out by next week sometime, and it'll come with September sometime deadline.
Okay.
And we can discuss that over the next 30 days, 45 days as to how do we rectify what and has been denied as a variance for a structure within the required shoreline setback.
Okay, and so I remember when you came out that because I talked about doing the variance or applying for one, it was denied that I was gonna have to wait until October, because now I kinda talked to the landscaper about, because I kinda had a feeling I knew where this was gonna go, so
I can work with you on deadlines, but at this point, the variance has been denied and we'll need to look at an order for correction timeline and process for removal.
okay, so you'll work with me on the timeline, as long as I get landscaper scheduled, help me get it out.
Yeah, I would not want this to go past winter though. You would have to be out by this fall, yeah.
And you probably haven't looked back to the turf issue. Different county, it's amazing what they could do with that.
Right.
And how nice it was in the other county where I worked with them privately.
Yeah, I really would want to be able to see, grow grass and pick the shares up and move them.
And the companies that do it have all kinds of photos and stuff to look at.
Okay, that's great, thank you.
Thanks, folks. Any other business before the board, come before the board?
I do have one little thing. We got a meeting again next month and again the month after that. So we do have several different variances rolling in. Third Tuesday, yeah, that sounds right. We do have one zoning committee appeal as part of that, and then I believe 2 other variances. I have been asked by Corporation Counsel, your legal counsel, to also add a new business or a separate agenda item for next month to go into closed session. And the reason specifically that we'd want to go into closed session, not specifically related to the appeal of the zoning committee that you're hearing, but to give you updates as to the other circuit court appeals that this body is going through. There are 2 active ones right now. And generally, we would not want to have that discussion in open record, as you would be somewhat conferring with your legal counsel as to the updates and statuses on those. So again, we are having it as an agenda item after the variance cases to go into closed session so we can give you an update. Those 2 are the Smolin case, which is still active. That was an appeal of the zoning administrator's determination, which was then appealed further to circuit court, as well as the Johnson variance case. So we'll we'll give you some updates on that next month.
But, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, I just have a question for our committee, and I don't know if this is part of our open meeting or not, but what is preventing this group from making our decisions in closed session?
It's not legal.
It's not legal? Okay, I remember doing a variance 30 years ago in La Crosse, and it was, I had to leave the room. The committee made a decision, and then the chair came out and told me, okay, so it's not legal. That's a good answer. Yeah.
Right, and you're a legal body, and when you deliberate in public so that people can hear what you're saying.
Yeah, there's only certain mechanisms and when you can go into a closed session. Like a body or a committee of jurisdiction can go to like reprimand an employee. They can talk about an employee in closed session. You can confer with your legal counsel about matters that are pending litigation or will turn into litigation. I think there's one other one that you can go into closed session about.
Anything with employees,
Yeah.
obviously, and there might be one more, they're all listed in the statutes. Those are the only things you can go to executive session for closed session.
Seems like sometimes when we go into our discussion, I think maybe we should ask the applicant to sit down, because we're talking, I feel like our discussion should be just amongst us, and then all of a sudden they're interjecting again.
And sometimes chairs have done that,
Yeah.
but, if someone has a question or brings up a comment and they can answer it, not necessarily a bad thing either. And especially when they haven't done it before, many of them don't know if I'm supposed to throw everything against the wall and hope something sticks.
Right.
And they might leave something out, and then what we say brings it up and they want to tell you, so. And I think allowing them to do that sometimes helps you in an appeal too, because allowing them to say whatever they want, as opposed to cutting them off.
And usually when the chair says, okay, decision by the board or discussion by the board, that applicant has had their turn and they're done. Now you, as the chair, if you have additional questions that come up and you'd like an answer, but the applicant raising their hand in the back to tell you something, you can just say, no, we are in discussion, you had your time.
But you can also approve it.
Correct.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
he's answering a
The
question,
decision on that
yeah.
matter is strictly up to the chair. Whether or not you want to take additional testimony after you said decision or discussion by the board, that's on the chair, or I guess you could potentially get a roll call or vote on it.
We
but-
used to do that, we could close the public comment period, but then either they would have another, something they thought of that they didn't mention previously, or we would have a question, so then we'd have to close the decision thing, reopen the public comment thing,
I think you do a good job.
First and second.
You give them plenty of opportunities to get everything out there. But in the process, I feel sloppy.
Going back and
And
forth.
that's the balance. Going back.
Well-
I think if they were attorneys, we'd cut them off,
Right.
because they're allegedly professionals, and they have down what they want to say, and when they're done, they're done. Sometimes the lay people, they don't know what they want to say, they're nervous, and by allowing them a little more leeway, and even in a court, they're more strict with the attorneys, less strict with lay people doing it themselves because they don't know.
Okay.
And usually you can tell, your discussion, is somewhat evident to them as whether you're going to approve or deny. And if it's a denial, you usually have that person that tries to slide back in there and offer some other type of caveat to change your mind.
And sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't.
We're not technically. I mean, we are still recording. I could have Alex and Mike
You're
cut
ju-
this
you're
out.
just
but-
discussing, this is nothing.
This goes back to the first, the mouse, whatever their name is. And I guess I did have some prior information that led me to believe that he wasn't supposed to go there. And that is why I raised the question with him. And then he admitted, yes, I did go, and I did seek what I was supposed to do and saw the permit. But I didn't like the way they answered me, so I did it anyway. I'm like,
Well, I think that was,
dude.
He actually went to the County Board of Supervisor Chair, Ron Kinsley, and Ron Kinsley talked to me about it.
but it was still after the fact.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah,
The
he-
shed was already there at
He
that
asked
point.
about getting a variance from Ron Kinsley, and he said don't. But honestly, in that situation, I think it was the least obtrusive, you know, if you're gonna put that shed in, that was the best spot for it.
It was, but he wasn't supposed to do it, that's.
Right.
I get
So
it.
when you know that.
But I think if he,
that makes it hard.
had he applied beforehand for that spot with those reasons, he probably would have got it, I think. Yep. Yeah,
That or you're gonna make them rip out, I think they're white pine, red pine?
big white pines.
Is there big white pines there?
You could tell exactly which trees